My mother held me down while my father arranged for me to be sold off to a dangerous older man, a predator whose previous wives all died mysteriously before they turned 23. So, I didn't just run away, I exposed every single one of them, and I started a war. You have to understand, where I come from, being a girl meant you had a very specific expiration date. In my family, we were married off the second we got our first period. It didn't matter if you were 12, 13, or 14. That blood was a signal that you were ready to belong to a husband at least 3 times your age. I grew up thinking this was normal. It was just how the world worked. That is, until I turned 11. That's when I watched my cousin, Mayim, get promised to a 43-year-old man just 3 days after she started her cycle. I found out later that his previous 2 wives had died before they were 20. That was the night I decided to stop eating. It wasn't because I had body image issues. It wasn't because I wasn't hungry. It was survival. I noticed the skinnier girls in the family were the last ones to get their periods, so I starved myself to buy time. I learned later that your body needs a certain amount of fat to start puberty, but back then, it was just a desperate theory. The other girls called me skeleton, but I didn't care. Being a skeleton meant I was still free. But even though I wasn't bleeding yet, the training didn't stop. They were prepping me to be the perfect subservient wife. Every Friday, from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m., I had to serve meals to the men in the family. 9 hours on my feet, total silence. If I made eye contact, 10 lashes with a belt. If I made a noise, 10 lashes. They forced me to hold burning hot pots without oven mitts just to toughen up my hands for kitchen work. And every single night, my mom slathered skin whitening cream on my face so I would be beautiful for a buyer. Aside from the secret starvation, I played the part perfectly. I was the obedient daughter. I smiled, I nodded, I talked about how excited I was to have babies. I was acting for my life. But everything changed when I was 14. For context, we were in the USA the whole time. My mom had brainwashed us into thinking this was the law of the land, that if we didn't submit, we'd die alone, ugly and useless. But then, a teacher at my school pulled me aside because she saw my collarbone poking out through a t-shirt I'd accidentally worn. She stepped out to use the bathroom and left her desk drawer unlocked. I peeked inside. And there they were. Pamphlets. Your rights as a young teenager. When culture becomes crime. My jaw literally dropped. I read them as fast as I could, and for the first time in my life, I realized that marriage under 18 was wrong. Illegal. No cultural exceptions. No parental consent loopholes. It was a crime. I stole the thinnest pamphlet, shoved it in my waistband, and hid it like it was gold. Over the next few weeks, I memorized every word. CPS numbers, shelter addresses, the exact legal phrases that triggered a mandatory report. I learned that teachers and doctors had to report abuse. So, I started a secret resistance group in my uncle's tool shed. I called it a wife skills group so the adults wouldn't get suspicious, but inside that shed, I was teaching 6 of my younger cousins how to save themselves. We practiced the words in whispers. Asterisk, they are forcing me to marry. I am 13. Please help. Asterisk. But at 15, my body finally betrayed me. It happened during morning food prep. The blood soaked through my white dress. My mother screamed, not in horror, but in pure joy. It brought every woman in the house running. They kissed my cheeks, beamed at me, told me I was lucky. By nightfall, my father had sold me. The buyer was Hammad Habibi, a construction mogul. He had already buried 2 wives. The death certificates said kidney failure, but the women whispered the truth. Their bodies gave out from too many pregnancies, too young. 2 days later, my cousin Anna, one of the girls from my shed group, got her period too. Within hours, she was sold to a 51-year-old with 8 children older than her. I saw the light go out of her eyes. That night, I slipped her my notebook with all the escape routes and legal codes. Tell the science teacher, I whispered. Use the exact words. She asked about me. I told her I had 2 weeks before my wedding, that I'd figured out. I was wrong. CPS showed up that night. My father was confused, then furious. They asked about underage brides. They asked about forced marriages. But the moment they left, The family circled us like wolves. They knew someone had been talking. They turned the house upside down and found my journal in the shed. My father burned it right in front of everyone. He called me diseased, contaminated, a cancer that needed to be cut out. Then he looked me in the eye and said, "The wedding is tomorrow, before she destroys anyone else." Dawn came way too fast. I knew that in an hour, they'd dress me in red and gold and hand me over to a man who killed girls. My stomach was churning, but I had a plan B. I grabbed a plastic bag I'd hidden days ago, a change of clothes, rewritten addresses, and $20 I'd stolen from my mom's purse, dollar by dollar. When my mom came in to get me, fully dressed for the wedding, I doubled over. I groaned, clutching my stomach. "Mama, something's wrong," I cried. "It hurts." In our culture, a sick bride is a bad omen. She frowned. I begged for the bathroom. She let me go, disgusted. "5 minutes," she hissed. "The aunties are waiting." I locked the bathroom door and immediately climbed onto the toilet. I'd loosened a ceiling tile weeks ago. I shoved my bag into the ceiling, then flushed the toilet to make it sound real. I groaned loudly. My mom started pounding on the door. "Open this door." "I can't," I screamed, climbing back up. There was a tiny window above the toilet, painted shut for years. I jammed a stolen butter knife into the frame. I pushed with everything I had. The paint cracked. The window gave way. The gap was tiny, meant for ventilation, not a human. But years of starvation had made me small enough. "Break it down." I heard my father roar from the hallway. I shoved my bag through, then pulled myself up. My shoulders scraped the frame, tearing my skin. The bathroom door shook as bodies slammed against it. My hips got stuck. I bit my tongue so hard, I tasted blood to keep from screaming. The door lock splintered just as I kicked my legs free. I dropped 6 feet onto the wet grass, twisting my ankle. I didn't stop. I ran barefoot, my nightgown flapping in the wind. I sprinted through the neighbors' yards. Dogs barked. Lights flickered on. I heard car engines roaring to life behind me. They were mobilizing. They were hunting me. I ducked behind garbage cans as headlights swept the street. I heard my cousin Omar yelling, "Check every street." She couldn't have gone far. I mapped the route to the bus stop in my head, but I'd never done it barefoot with glass slicing into my heels. I dove through a rose bush, thorns tearing my skin, just to hide from a screeching car. I burst out of an alley just as the bus pulled up. I climbed the steps, gasping, bleeding, wearing a torn nightgown. And then I froze. The money. It was in the bag. I had forgotten the bag. "Please," I whispered to the driver. "I just need to get downtown. I promise I'll pay you back." Before the driver could speak, an elderly woman in the front seat stood up and paid my fare. "Sit down, child," she said softly. She handed me tissues and blocked me from the window as my cousin's car skidded into the parking lot. She saved me. When we got downtown, she pressed $10 into my hand and whispered, "Whatever you're running from, don't go back." I limped into the massive courthouse, leaving bloody footprints on the marble. The clerk took one look at me and rushed around the counter. I gasped out the words I had memorized. "Emergency protective order. I am 15.
They're forcing me to marry today.
Please." She helped me fill out the paperwork. My phone was blowing up. Mom, Dad, Omar. Voicemails about dishonor and shame. The clerk got a judge to sign the emergency order immediately. But then came the blow. The shelter was full. No beds until Thursday. It was Saturday. I had nowhere to go for 3 days. Then I remembered Ms. Rodriguez, the teacher with the pamphlets. I took 3 buses to the high school. Her car was there. She was grading papers on a Saturday. When she saw me, bloody, terrified, she dropped her pen and rushed to lock the door. She started cleaning my feet with a first aid kit. That's when I finally broke down and sobbed. "They're going to make me marry him today," I cried. "He killed 2 wives already." She called CPS, but they gave us the runaround. "We need evidence of immediate physical danger," they said. "Self-inflicted cuts from running away don't count." Suddenly, my phone rang. Ms. Rodriguez answered. It was my father. And he wasn't screaming. He was using his business voice. Calm, reasonable. She's sick, he told my teacher. She has mental problems. She needs her medication. We're very worried. He knew where we were. They were tracking my phone. Delete everything, Ms. Rodriguez commanded. Factory reset.
Now.
We heard car doors slam in the parking lot. Footsteps in the hallway. Male voices speaking Arabic, then English. We know she's here, my father called out. She needs help. They started pounding on the classroom door. Ms. Rodriguez was about to call 911, but I stopped her. Wait, I said. I rolled up my sleeves and showed her the circular burn scars from the pots. I showed her the belt marks on my back. She took photos, her hands shaking. Then she called the police. By the time the cops arrived, my father had transformed into the perfect concerned parent. He was holding prescription bottles with my name on them. Thank God, he told the officers. My daughter is having a psychotic episode. She has delusions. The police were buying it. They looked at my cuts and saw a disturbed girl. If I'm so sick, I said, my voice shaking, why are there no doctor records? Why am I not in the system? Ms. Rodriguez stepped up. She pulled out her laptop. I have essays, she told the officer. Months of them. She wrote about cooking lessons that were actually burns. She wrote about beatings. The officer read them, frowning. Then the school security guard arrived with video footage. It showed my father and uncles arriving with the prescription bottles already in their hands. They had prepped the lie. The tide turned. The police, CPS, and the DA arrived. My father lunged at me, screaming in Arabic about dishonor. Officers tackled him. I was placed in emergency custody. But the system was broken. No beds for high-risk cultural cases. The families always try to steal the girls back. Finally, Ms. Rodriguez found a private placement. Theodora, a retired nurse who ran a safe house. Theodora was a fortress of a woman. She had cameras everywhere. The police response time here is under 2 minutes, she told me. I made sure of that. My family didn't give up. They sent flowers. They sent lawyers. They started a smear campaign on Facebook, claiming I was mentally ill and had been kidnapped by Westerners. They even forced my little cousin Margie to make a video saying I was a liar who hated our culture. It broke my heart to see her dead eyes reading a script. Then came the court hearing. My entire extended family filled one side of the courtroom, staring at me with hatred. My father's lawyer painted me as a rebellious, brainwashed teen. They called witnesses, my pediatrician, the imam, everyone lied. Then my lawyer, Patricia, went to work. She showed the burns, the essays, the death certificates of Habibi's previous wives. Those women died of natural causes, my father's lawyer shouted. Unless you're accusing my client of murder. I'm accusing him of a pattern, Patricia shot back. The judge looked doubtful. It was my word against a wealthy, respected community leader. And then the courtroom doors opened. A young woman walked in, limping slightly. My father went pale. My mother gasped. I am Fatima Habibi, the woman said. I was Hammad Habibi's first wife.
And I didn't die.
The room erupted. Fatima took the stand. She told the judge everything. Married at 15. Kidney failure by 20 from back-to-back pregnancies. Her family had helped her escape, but told everyone she was dead to save their honor. I've been in hiding for 5 years, she said, looking right at me. But when I saw the posts about you, I couldn't let him kill another girl. That was the nail in the coffin. The judge granted a permanent protective order. My parents were banned from contacting me. As we stood to leave, my mother stood up and removed her hijab. She looked me in the eye and announced to the court, "We have no daughter. She died today." It felt like walking through fire, but I walked out of there free. But they weren't done. They hacked my social media. They filed frivolous lawsuits to bankrupt Theodora. They sent people to watch the house. One day, my cousin Anna, the one I tried to save, reached out. She warned me, "They're planning something. They want to make an example of you." 2 days later, hired men broke into Theodora's house. I locked myself in the bathroom, Again, while they smashed through the glass. The police arrived just in time, but we knew I had to move. The safe house was compromised. As I was packing, I realized something. Running wasn't enough. They wanted me scared? I was done being scared. I called Ms. Rodriguez. "Remember those pamphlets?" I said. "We need to make more. A lot more." We created freedom packets, legal rights, shelter numbers, escape plans, disguised inside school notebooks and math homework. We built an underground network. We slipped them to school nurses and trusted teachers. And it worked. Girls started calling me on burner phones. "I found your notebook," they'd whisper. "Help me." My family tried everything to stop it. They threatened the press. They tried to get me arrested for corrupting minors. But the floodgates were open. The turning point was when Samira, a 16-year-old girl, tried to run. Her family caught her and was dragging her to the airport to take her out of the country. I went to the courthouse parking lot where they were processing her passport. I couldn't get close, but she saw me through the car window. I mouthed one word: "Run." She didn't run. She did something better. She dropped to the ground, screaming in fake pain, claiming appendicitis. It caused a scene. Police swarmed. In the chaos, she demanded protection. CPS took her right there on the sidewalk. Her uncle was left screaming into his phone. We had another one. Eventually, my family issued a formal announcement in the community newsletter. I was officially disowned, erased from the family tree. To them, it was the ultimate punishment. To me, it was liberation. Today, the Freedom Network is real. We have safe houses, lawyers, and volunteers. My family thinks they destroyed me by erasing my name, but they didn't realize that by casting me out, they made me into a lighthouse for every other girl drowning in that darkness. I lost my parents. I lost my past. But I saved my future. I have to ask you, if you were 15, terrified, and alone, would you have had the guts to burn down your whole life just to survive? Or would you have given in? Tell me honestly in the comments. I really want to know what you would have done in my place.